Hello and welcome to the Relax, It's Retirement podcast with your host, Josh Leonard, where we talk about transitioning into retirement with intent. I'm Wendy McConnell and we have Pete Belcastro as well. Hello, and how are you guys today?
Oh, great, Wendy.
Doing great. It's beautiful summerish weather, so we'll take it,
Absolutely. So you were missing in action. You went on a big vacation, right? Are you all refreshed and renewed and ready to go?
I am. We had our weekly team meeting earlier today, and I thank the team. I think this was the first time for me in a few years that I was able to ignore my email for more than 24 hours. And it's great having a team backing me, and that we're all working together and sort of, breaking off into smaller teams. That has been a huge gain for me personally. And it was really nice to spend some time with the kiddos and, just play. So we were fortunate enough to go to Hawaii for a week. So
wow.
While we were vacationing and relaxing, I still had to challenge myself, Wendy. So
well, of course.
Today we're going to talk about doing hard things,
Okay, I'm ready for it. I've been doing hard things for a long time.
I like it. I think, Pete and I were talking before the show, and, he brought up a quote by JFK. We chose to go to the moon in this decade and do other things, not because they're easy, but because they're hard. And now I'll let Pete repronounce the word hard a few times here.
Yeah, not because it was easy, because it was hard.
This was in the 60s, of course, for those of you who may not know.
Yes.
Yeah, a little JFK quote there. But
our New England president with his New England accent.
Yeah, did you like it, Wendy?
Yeah, it was pretty good. I got to tell you, I was a little impressed.
Thank you. Unfortunately, it was Mayor Quimby actually from The Simpsons that I was copying, so that's what I got. So, but I think it goes along with a lot of things that we do talk about. Is that a lot of things that are worth doing are if it's easy, it's probably not worth doing it, and the result in the back end. Yeah. And I think that's why, whenever you talk about being on vacation and you hear about somebody doing something physically challenging, you're like, gosh, how could, why would you do that?
Yeah. I think, I think for me, it fits into a lot of my other goals, and I had adequate time to undertake a challenge. But I think also setting a good example for my kids is very important to me. Like this morning, I was having a discussion with my 7-year-old, and he saw me hit update on my phone, and it was 20 some apps needed an update because I was on vacation. I wasn't paying much attention to the phone, fortunately. And he saw me hit it, and he's like, well, Dad, when you got your phone in high school, did you just download a ton of apps right away?
Oh my
and
goodness.
I'm like, when I got my phone in high school, there wasn't an app yet. There wasn't such thing as an app, right? We had the ability to call, text, and maybe play Snake.
Or take a fuzzy picture.
I didn't have a phone until I was out of college for a few years.
There you go. And this was the discussion that Eli and I continued to have then was, hey, you know what? Your childhood looks a lot different than mine, as my parents did. And as each generation moves forward, we get a lot of comforts. We get a lot of things that makes life easier, right? Even for me, we had CDs, and I guess in late high school, early college, we transitioned to MP3s, where you had before the iPod, it was this little stick or where you could hold 30 songs. That was really convenient. Now you just say whatever your favorite digital assistant is, play this song, and it magically starts playing, right? And that's what my kids know. But to my parents, that I didn't have to replace a needle on a record player and have gigantic records that had to be stored, very specifically, was a big advancement.
And I got to tell you, as somebody who is, I guess your parents' age, as you keep shoving it down my throat.
You're in between, Wendy. You're in between.
We started out with records I had to buy, and then we went to cassette tapes, which I had to buy, and then we went to CDs, which I had to rebuy, and now I'm getting the
monthly subscription.
The iTunes. No, I refuse to do subscription, but I am buying again on iTunes. So I have bought some albums 4 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
See,
the
you
problem
should have
when
downloaded them all on Napster. You know, you should have.
Yeah,
with that 56K dial-up, you should have let it run all night, hoping that it would go through and you wouldn't get a virus. You know,
I had a lot of CDs, but they don't even have CD burners anymore. You got to buy them separate. You used to be able to do that on your computer.
I don't even have a disk drive on my computer anymore.
No, nothing. So it's hard to be the transition generation. Like I said, it's cost us a lot of money to go from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. So, and we've had to learn all of them.
Yeah. I mean, I think my brother would always joke in high school, because he didn't get a cell phone until his senior year. He would always joke, oh, my cell phone is the change drawer in the car and my little brother. Like, if the car breaks down, here's some change, Josh, go find the nearest gas station. And call AAA, you know. They
still had payphones then, which you cannot find anymore.
Yeah, it's you're in a bad area if you can still find a payphone, actually. That's a sign to be careful.
Exactly. So, yes, very different upbringings for different generations.
Yeah, so Eli and I were talking about these differences in generations, but why I still like to do challenging things like my bike ride that we did on vacation, which was up Haleakala in Maui. It's one of the largest climbs you can do on a bicycle, number 2 in the U.S. So from sea level to over 10,000 feet, and it's pretty much all straight uphill.
Was that 10,000 steps to get 10,000 feet?
No, it was a lot of pedaling. Really, really slow pedaling.
I got you.
But,
a
I
lot of
was talking with Eli and said, hey, there's a benefit to me that, like, most of my life is pretty comfortable, right? Like, Pete and I were talking pre-show that most people work out in an air-conditioned room now, right? Like, I'm exercising, but it has to be the right temperature for me to exercise, right?
Right.
We don't want it to be too hot or too cold. We need a very specific temperature to exercise, right? Well, that's pretty far away from our primal instincts. But I think when we get too far away from these things, we become weak in other areas of life. I think there's a benefit to doing hard things. And that was really the point that I wanted to get across to Eli. And I think that parallels well with life at all stages, especially in retirement.
Okay. So once we retire, it doesn't mean we're on easy street. You're saying that we still need to do things that could challenge us.
Absolutely. I think Pete recently completed a bike ride that was challenging for him, not only for the distance that he covered, but he also had to bring a bunch of kids along, right, Pete?
Yeah. It was through scouting. So we had it was about 16 kids that did a trip, and I think we talked about just wanting to go on longer cycling rides. And I'll tell you one thing: whenever you're trying to go 5 miles an hour just to slow down for a child, it's pretty tough sometimes. So a lot of these kids, they never did it before. It was maybe the longest they rode was maybe 15 miles, and this was a 47-mile trip. I think that's like we said, some correlation with retirement. A lot of times people get comfortable, they're in their working years, they're accumulating money, and then now it's time to do something you never did before. You got to retire. And I think that once pushing these kids to do this trip, I mean, you would look at their faces during the last 5-10 miles, and you would have thought they were just exhausted, physically, emotionally, mentally. And, once we got back to camp, they completed that goal. I mean, smiles everywhere. They went and got ice cream. They were running around, playing on the playground. It just, that energy just continued to build. And I think that's one of the things that, we like to talk about is that, it might be hard at first, but it's like energy that the more you use, the more you get, so if you're not using or putting any effort in, it's going to feel harder. Yeah. It's going to feel tougher.
Yeah. Because the nuclear power plant does not make energy. It generates energy.
Yes.
Right.
I like that one. There you go. Absolutely.
I stole it from someone, but go ahead and use it.
It's good. It's good, Wendy. I like it. It's in our podcast now, so we've officially stolen it. Thank you, Wendy.
All right. You're welcome. You're welcome.
I think that's it. I think always, it's funny being a parent or like Pete observing the kids. We get to see all these things that we still need as adults, but we see it through the eyes of the kids. And I think that's it. For me, I feel more empowered. Sometimes I'm depleting myself riding the bike or running or something, but then afterwards, like, man, my body is just like tuned up in weird ways. And, you're able to focus a lot more because you've exhausted yourself in some ways. Your body regenerates and adapts. I think it helps you increase your potential, right? Like me riding my bike further does not necessarily make me a better person overall, but it helps me build good and positive characteristics in my personality by pushing through those challenges and things like that. Whereas most of my day-to-day, I'm looking at a screen like I am now, talking into a microphone. Like, this is not physically exhausting at all. Might be mentally challenging at times.
I would say my husband would not agree with that. It finds me to be exhausting. Yeah, but it's often like they say, you never regret a workout. It's like you got to talk yourself into going to the gym, and you talk yourself, and then as soon as it's over, you're like, oh yeah, I did it. It's never once have I heard somebody leave the gym and go, man, I really wish I didn't do that.
Yeah, and we've talked about this on goal setting podcasts and stuff before, but I think some of that social accountability, being able to hold yourself accountable to make sure you actually get to the gym, right? Because you're going to feel good after, but man, getting started is awful.
Yes.
Every single time it's awful. I mean,
every time.
If you talk to professional athletes or whatever, it's like, man, just to get there is hard. You have to know that it's good afterwards. And I think
right.
For my painful bike ride, I had rented a bike in Maui. I had picked it up the day before, and I'm like watching YouTube videos of people doing this, and I'm like, man, I think I'm out of my element doing this. I'm not really sure why I committed to do this, but I've rented a bike. I've told people I'm doing it. Like, my whole family and kids are assuming I'm going to get to the top. I guess I got to figure out how to get up to the top.
The expectation is there.
That's right.
Absolutely.
And you got to do it. And it's funny because as you're going up, there's signs telling you like how high you are. So I literally dipped my back tire in the sand at the beach and then rode all the way up 10,000 feet.
So how long did that take you?
Like 7 hours to get up and then like 45 minutes to get down.
No,
it was a little bit longer to get down. But yeah, total time was 7 hours and 45 minutes.
So you basically spent a whole day doing this in Hawaii.
I did. I certainly did.
Wow. I gave you a lot of credit. I would not have used a whole day. But you've got bragging rights now, and there's something for that,
I think yeah, there's, we often, we talked about that a lot, is that, that wasn't the last trip that Josh made up that mountain. And, he had to make that trip. And, I think going back to that potential piece, is that, yeah, I mean, he, until he made it up that hill, up that mountain, he couldn't make it up, he didn't know if he could make it up that mountain. It was just potential. And I think one of my favorite quotes is, there's nothing, worse in life than wasted potential. I think it's from the Bronx Tale. Yeah. So, you can, Chaz Palmieri is the guy's name. So I think it's a great quote because, you have all this potential in life of these great things that you can do, and not only for yourself, but for others. And you have all this potential in retirement as well. So it's not like you're given to, you're given to society all the time that you're working. That potential remains whenever you are in retirement. And, talking with Josh, he's like, yeah, I had to drive up that hill. And I really didn't see too much.
Yeah. I mean, I've drove up to the top of the mountain twice now, and both times I saw far less. I mean, we drove up the next day and we brought the kids up. Well, when I'm driving the family of 4 up a mountain where if you go off the road, it's like a cliff,
Right. You don't want to do that.
You're kind of just looking at the road. You get glimpses, but you're not looking the same way that you are in a bike when, it's kind of like pedal, 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 5 miles an hour versus 25 to 30, right?
Did you get off and walk the bike at any point?
I did not walk up any of it. I did have to jump off a couple times and just kind of stretch
to restart. Okay, gotcha.
And I did stop and grab a sandwich along the way, which I packed a ton of food. Like, these biking jerseys, they have pockets in the back. And I was
I've seen them. Yeah.
Filled up with food.
And you went through all of it and needed a sandwich?
I added a turkey sandwich in. Turkey and Swiss, a little bit of lettuce, put some mayo on it. It was really good. Nice little country shop because you're going in up country, as they call it.
Thank goodness it was there.
The best turkey sandwich you had.
All of the videos that I watched, people were like, this is the last place you can buy food. So buy food. And I got there and I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just get some more water. And I was like in the store and the lady's like, oh, do you want anything from the deli? And I'm like, deli? I do want something from the deli. And by the time I got to the top, boy, was I glad I had ate that sandwich.
Yeah.
Isn't that, I think that's amazing though. Like you said, Wendy, your perception was like, why would you do that? When you're on vacation or, whenever you're putting time away for yourself. And, I think now after hearing from Josh, it's like, well, gosh, that was a lot more fulfilling. He got a lot more out of riding up that mountain, taking it slow, putting forth that effort, than taking the easy route,
Yeah, he's just a show off. He just wants to make us look bad.
Yeah.
What's that, Wendy?
You're just a show off. You're just making us look bad. I mean, us, the other people who just go to the beach and lie by the pool all week, we're just slackers now.
I mean, I did that plenty. Don't you worry. There are 7 days to this vacation here.
Okay.
I actually got a massage to help recover after too. So,
now, did the kids watch you do this? I mean, like, did they see you? Were they at the top waiting for you, or did you just do it and tell them?
The interesting thing about endurance sports is they're really, really boring to observe.
Right.
You want to watch Dad ride up a mountain at 5 miles per hour, kids?
Wow, I know. Yeah, I've seen the Ironman competitions. I've watched them.
The exciting part of bike racing to me is like that last section, right? Like, other than that, I don't know.
Yeah. So they were off at the beach by the pool.
They were at the beach and at the pool and,
gotcha.
Just relaxing. But as I'm pedaling up the mountain for, 6+ hours, I really got to practice how to pronounce Haleakala. It doesn't come easy. And I've looked at it so many times and been like, I can't pronounce this. Well, you kind of get in your own head on these long rides. So I figured out how to pronounce a word. That's what I did all day.
Okay.
I've
been there. I've done that.
Yeah, I think that it's sort of this challenge of one more step, right? Like, as you can see the elevation changes and I'm tracking the ride, I can see how much longer I have. I hit 5,000 feet of elevation. And I'm like, I'm only halfway up. Like, I'm already tired. Like, okay, just keep going. What's the next 1,000 feet? Let's see there. And the interesting thing is, like, that much of an elevation change in that short of a time, it was like 30 some miles up. You're totally changing environments too. So all the plants change. You ride through the clouds. I mean, it is a really cool way to observe nature as well.
Wow.
Because you're just kind of slowly seeing how, everything lives at different points of elevation.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty cool. They, and Josh, like you said, that that's an endurance sport, individual kind of sport, and but Josh did let us know he was doing this. He had to order a bike, ahead of time. So I think that even though some of these things in life seem like they're individuals, all of us actually played a role in helping Josh get up that mountain. Just by him, letting that be known, and allowing us to be part of that team just because, hey, I ordered this bike. I'm doing this ride. Check this out. Watch the video. Look at the elevation.
Pete even forced me to buy a GoPro, Wendy.
I did.
Oh. All right.
So Pete's like, "Are you going to film it?" And I'm like, and
I was like, "You could do a time lapse. You could."
Yeah, he's like, "You can do all these cool things." So I'm like, so then I looked up the GoPro and I asked Deanna, I'm like, "Should I do it?" And she's like, "Well, it's just like one of those things that you're probably only going to do once in your life. I don't know if you want to record it." I'm like, "Okay, fine." So we'll link a video. I still got to edit it, but we'll link a video in the show notes here.
All right.
I'm holding myself accountable to get the editing done by the time the show goes.
Yeah. So let's bring it back to retirement now. How is this all relating to retirement?
Yeah. So I think Pete was kind of starting down that route before I derailed him again, but I had to prepare for the ride. So not only did I need to find the route, I needed to rent the bike, figure out where to rent the bike, how I'm going to get the bike to the starting point, what I'm bringing, flying from Michigan to Hawaii to make sure I have everything I need to complete the ride. That's like preparing for retirement, right? I'm not just going to suddenly drop into the bottom of the mountain and start riding up. I need to do that preparation ahead of time. There was a lot of other preparation, like riding my bike a lot prior to that gave me any hope of making it up the mountain, right? So much like retirement, that's leading up to retirement, right? You're saving in your 401k, you're accumulating. You've grown your wages over the year to hopefully have an excess in wages to be able to save enough to eventually retire as well. Those are all preparation points. Now, right before, the day before the race, well, I'm looking at all these YouTube videos and I see, hey, here's a good spot to grab food before there's no hope to get any more food, right? That can be like your Medicare planning, right? You know that you need to eat along the ride. You know that you're going to need healthcare in retirement, but you need to do that planning as you're transitioning, as you're riding up the mountain and you see, I'm eating a little bit more than I thought. Maybe I should grab something extra. Having those resources available is critically important when preparing for retirement.
Yeah, and just being aware of those, like you said, if you didn't know that sandwich shop was there, or maybe if you weren't open to the thought of walking over to the deli, you might not have made it up that mountain, So just being aware and keeping your eyes open to help along the way, and like we said, putting together your team. We're all trying to play different positions on this, and even though you might be the star, and it revolves around you, you might be the quarterback. Hey, you still need the lineman. You still need a receiver out there to catch the pass.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you need the support. I think to make all of this possible took many, many people for me to achieve this goal. I think the other thing is, as I'm getting closer to the top of that mountain, I'm thinking, man, just once I retire, once I hit the summit where that peak, man, everything's easy from there, right? I'm just going to coast downhill. It's no problem. And people think about retirement that way all the time, right? Like, I don't have to work anymore. What's the problem? I'll play pickleball all day.
That doesn't sound like a bad idea.
But after you play pickleball all day for a week, you might be yearning for something else, right? Like, pickleball's still great. I still want to play, maybe even every day, but not all day, every day, right? So you're yearning for something else.
Yes.
As I started going down the mountain exhausted, I realized, hey, these really high winds at the top of the mountain while I'm flying down on a bike at 30 miles an hour are terrifying. And now I'm super tense. I'm, so parallel with retirement planning might be worried about the market or, not having everything planned out well enough where you have that ease of mind and preparation. I was not prepared to descend the mountain appropriately. I was very tense. In fact, in my shoulders, I had to consciously, hey, relax a little bit. I had blisters from gripping so tight, trying to go down, which is the whole way up. I'm perceiving that's the easy part, right? But we need to be careful and make sure that we're adjusting to the different conditions that we have in retirement, just like me descending down that mountain.
Yeah. Even though you're on the downturn. I was, on my bike trip, we went through the Eastern Continental Divide. So you would think, at the beginning of the trip, we're going up through Maryland, cross the Mason-Dixon line, then finally over the Eastern Continental Divide, and it should be all downhill, from there, and actually go, that path went the whole way to Pittsburgh. But if you stop pedaling, you stop moving. And I think that was, I thought a great analogy for what we're talking about here. Like Josh said, maybe things start, maybe it is getting a little too fast, a little too easy for you. What's going on? How do you kind of keep yourself in check? Or, hey, I am on the downturn. Why do I still have to do some sort of effort to keep this thing going? So I think that's, that's part of what we talk about is retiring to something is, what are some things that are still going to, keep you active, still going to keep your mind going. So what are those things? Probably things that you're passionate about right now, things that you care about right now, whether it's giving back to the community through volunteering, or it is maybe a physical challenge to say, hey, I'm going to go on this ride or this hike.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a ton of benefits and parallels. It's something we talk about a ton on the podcast, like trying to make sure that you have something once you retiring to something. Too many times, it's just, well, I'm done working. What do I need to worry about? The honey-do list, you might catch the end of it. Now, it's not advisable to ever catch the end of the honey-do list, but, there's always something else we need to do. I think even in that, descending, one of the things running through my mind is hey, if I crash, this is going to ruin the family vacation, right? If I'm in the hospital here because dad went 40 miles an hour over a cliff, that's kind of not a good vacation.
Kind of stink for a vacation, yeah.
Just like descending, that retirement pivot, that pivot from accumulating to deaccumulating. Even if the market's going really well, we want to be careful that we're not taking too much risk, that we, drive off the side of a mountain, get ourselves in big trouble, right? So we got to manage that. Now, at the same time, we still want the positive effects, going fast, getting good returns, but we have to balance that out too. I think, finding that perfect balance in retirement is something we love helping people do. So not only laying out the financial plan, that framework to get you to whatever your goals are, but then talking about the soft side of it too. How do we handle that when roadblocks or challenges come up? How can we overcome that and help you manage it? And I think that's probably the most rewarding thing we do at the Leonard Advisory Group. One of the big things that we love sharing are those client success stories. One client finally broke down and bought their dream Corvette this year, and that's just cool to share that with the rest of the team. Hey, this client's been thinking about this for many years, and now they've purchased this, and here's a picture of them with a pretty big smile on their face, right? That's some of the cool things we get to do in our work. So do hard things in retirement, Wendy.
That's it.
I do plan to. So if somebody has some questions, they want to figure out that balance that you're talking about, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so we always engage with people with a 15-minute phone call first, right? So no pressure, just talk to you, see if we might be a good fit. If it makes sense to go further, we'll talk you through the next steps from there. But there's a link in the show notes to schedule a call with me or Pete. If you're not quite at that point yet, but you want to hear a little bit more about what we have to say, learn a little bit more about transitioning into retirement, I encourage you to subscribe to the podcast if you're not already. Check us out on YouTube as well. We'll have a link in the show notes. Make sure to subscribe there. as we post all of the podcasts along with monthly videos and other informational segments as well. But until next time, focus on figuring out some hard stuff to do, folks.